Hi guys, as you can tell, there's been, I guess, a really big development in terms of the future of RTA or PvP specifically for epicseven, and today we're going to dive into it and everything and all the implications that this can have as someone that's played RTA for a long time. Without further ado though, let's get into it. So first things first, this is an announcement for an upcoming World Arena improvement and direction, which is going to be introduced with the preseason beginning on April 5th. Now, this is still in development, so things can change and adjust, so keep that in mind. But the first thing that they're changing is the Battle Frenzy. Now, formerly, if you didn't know about this, there was a Battle Frenzy effect that was introduced way long ago. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, around when Hwayoung, not the ML version, but Fire Hwayoung had been released. And with it, they had introduced essentially additional or a proof of valor-esque reduction in damage that opposite or resistant elements would have. And what I mean by this is that if you are or to let it just speak for itself, when a Covenant hero is attacked by an element that they are resistant against, the damage received and any additional damage caused by the attack decreases by 30%. Essentially what this means that is, in addition to having increased miss chance or having a decreased hit chance against an enemy, if you are, say, fire against water, this meant that not only do you have the chance to miss, you also deal less damage if you are an element that is resistant to another. Now again, this is maybe something that not many people had thought about or had kind of not really considered, and they just assume that, well, if I'm a water character, I'm not really going to try and hit a grass or an earth unit. Now, the thing is that prior to this, and the reason why it was introduced, a character like Hwayoung, or Hwayoung specifically, was so powerful that as a fire unit, she could sometimes one-shot water units. Yeah, kind of unbelievable in this day and age for an opposite element character or a weak element character to do that. But back in the day, that was very possible with Hwayoung, and to be fair, that was primarily because of Hwayoung's kit, not so much her element. Now, with that though, what you're also seeing here, or the first thing that you're seeing here, is that it's being removed. And instead, what they have now is that they're increasing the attack and defense of heroes, in addition to increasing the damage dealt by burn, bleed, and bomb. Now, this right here, I think, is kind of interesting, but also a little bit confusing, at least from what I'm thinking. Now, to be clear, not much in terms of details has been addressed, or specific numbers haven't been given out. And as you're seeing, or as you'll see with this line specifically right here, it says that the exact values are currently undergoing continuous internal testing, and further details will be posted in a future update notice. However, the reason why this confuses me a little bit is because basically what they say, or the justification for this specifically, is that they want to they want to essentially increase the attack and defense of heroes, because attacker heroes who heavily rely on base stats without special survival effects seem to be at a disadvantage. And in order to address this, they want to increase the overall defense of heroes so that they can survive, but at the same time they want the attack heroes to still be able to, I guess, beat the tankier characters. Now, again, there are a lot of different ways to interpret this. What I'm assuming, and my initial perception here, or my initial take here, was that I think they're trying to make squishier or more damage-focused characters like, say, Ludwig, survive and not just get one-shot by, like, I don't know, a Yulha's S1 or some random tank character's ability. However, another perception or another take or interpretation of this is that they're removing the decreased attack and decreased damage dealt, just so that everyone gets a little bit tankier and, I guess, does a little bit more damage. Now, because of that interpretation specifically not really making sense, like, why would you remove the proof of valor-ish reduction just so that everyone gains attack and defense? Like, wouldn't it just cancel out? Like, because that doesn't make much sense to me. Their wording specifically here is what I personally have been going along with, or thinking that they're trying to, or is what I'm trying to assume they're trying to push for, which is that squishy characters can't just get one shot because, the Fallen Cecilia uses her S3, or like the Last Rider Crow uses his S3. However, at the same time, this is a very numbers dependent kind of scenario or situation that we're about to enter. Excuse me. Specifically because, well, if squishier characters become really, really difficult or annoying to fight, not only in terms of them being difficult to kill, but also because they, you know, they do too much damage, then that would be a bad thing for people that are trying to play slow or for tanks. However, on the other, or, you know, a very big concern with this as well is that if tank characters are already getting too tanky, or if they're going to get even tankier than they are right now, you already have characters like, let's say, you know, Empyrean Ilanov, who makes a lot of characters really difficult to cleave through. And again, I don't know exactly what the direction of this is. I wish that they had given a bit more details, but I'm assuming as we get closer to April 5th, we'll find out exactly what this means. However, from my understanding of this, it feels a bit convoluted. We'll see exactly what they mean by this. If the only thing that changes is that, I guess, DPS characters maybe don't blow everything up in one turn, but they blow it up in 2 turns as opposed to before, then maybe I understand the direction that they're trying to take with this. However, I don't know. It seems a bit... it seems very dependent on the numbers that they decide to implement. Now, in addition to this, they're also adding a new rank in between, now an additional rank between Legend and Champion. This time, it's a new rank called Warlord that sits right below Emperor. Now, formerly, Legend, as you're seeing here, is top 1 to 100. Between 100 and 101 and 1000 is Emperor, and now between 1001 and 3000 is this new rank known as Warlord. Now, we don't know exactly what this rank looks like, or what the reward, or I should say, what the emblem or anything of this looks like. And I am a little bit, I guess, a little bit curious about this specifically, just because they did just announce a bunch of new emblems and new badges to the game, which to me is, I guess, a missed opportunity a little bit for them to introduce or show off this rank at the same time. But hey, it is what it is. However, I am pretty interested in seeing exactly how much this changes things. I do agree that there is a very big discrepancy between, honestly, like Champion, which is 2200, and usually where Emperor and Legends end, which is usually in like that 3.6 to like 3.8k range. So hopefully this actually ends up changing things. But as always, I think if you care for RTA, it's cool, but I think a lot of people are in that sort of position where they just want to make sure that they get to Emperor. Or, you know, if you don't get the Legend, then hey, you know what? Leave. It's not worth it anyways. Whatever, I'll just end Champion, or I'll just end Emperor. Whatever the case is, if it's a competitive incentive for players, that's cool, but we'll see what this really does. I don't know what this will actually change. Now, okay, the thing that I do think is quite impactful, or quite important and very interesting, is this new Lunatic draft update that's being introduced. Now, if you aren't already familiar with it, there is a new current system in the game known as draft mode, which I would say has seen some level of popularity. I would say it's decently popular. They update it, and whenever there's usually more for fun modes or for fun activities, they usually have something like draft mode instilled as a sort of activity that people can take part in. However, you know, not to address the elephant in the room, but since there have been a lack of streams and there's not many how should I say, very creative activities or creative showcases or creative events going on, or there haven't been many as of late, this has kind of taken a back burner, and it's just more so if you enjoy playing this, feel free to do so. And since there hasn't been an event attached specifically to the event or to this activity in recent time as well, it's also just an event that people can kind of enjoy as they please. However, what I do want to talk about specifically for Lunatic Draft is that this feels very similar to something that I was actually made aware of in other certain game modes or in other PvP games, where there's something known as like an Iron Mode draft, where it's like essentially it will take the bans that you have from a previous match or a previous competitive match, and it will carry on into the next match so that you aren't able to use this sort of these sort of characters in the future. Now, keep in mind that this does feel somewhat similar to something like round mode, and it is also supposedly an event or a mode that is going to be used in the E7 World Championship in the future. But as for now, they're introducing it in the preseason, I guess, for testing and also for mock play. Now, what I do want to say about this is that in other competitive games, and apologies for those of you that don't watch, but for me personally, I've actually been watching a lot of Los Ratones stuff and the Fearless Draft for League and stuff, and that's basically the only thing I can compare this to. And I think the popularity and the recent announcements of Fearless Drafting being like a new format in League kind of reminds me of this, and it's also very timely, or time related, I guess, to this idea of banning out more characters so that you have more variety and more creativity in the game, I think is a very interesting concept. Now, I think for a game like League of Legends, where the only thing that stops you in most cases from trying out new characters is your own skill and your willingness to learn a character, I think it's very cool. I think it's very exciting, and regardless if it puts a strain on the pro players, putting more time into learning characters is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, that said, for Lunatic Draft, the thing that I might be, or I'm a bit more concerned about specifically, is that this is a mode that hopefully isn't like attached to some major rewards that you'll have major FOMO over feeling or over missing, specifically because Lunatic Drafting, and if you're able to ban out this many characters, will actually kind of, how should I say, it should actually impact a lot of players, especially if you aren't someone that has a lot of teams or characters built already. Now, if this is just a for fun mode, like with draft mode, then by all means, not a big deal. And to be honest, even with draft mode, the few rewards that we got from doing draft mode were so far in between, and they were so infrequent that it doesn't really make that much difference. And in addition to that, a lot of players that were doing the draft mode activities or the related events would just go into the activity, forfeit, and then leave. Now, Lunatic Draft sounds really cool just because, again, it gives you a lot of creativity, or opens up more creative options, and it will be used in the E7 World Championship. However, I'm just a little bit concerned, not necessarily a problem, or I wouldn't deem this like a major issue by any means, but it is just worth considering that although in something like League of Legends, the only thing that stops you from playing or other characters is your own skill, in this case, sometimes not owning a character or not owning enough characters could be somewhat of a concern if you're trying to appeal to the wide variety or the wide majority of players. Now, again, comparing the two, there are other factors at play here, but it was just something that I thought about, since sometimes I do want to play a character in epicseven, but I literally don't have the gear, the character, the Molagoras to play them, which again is why a mode, I guess, basically like draft mode isn't that big a deal, because draft mode gives you preset characters, preset builds, etc., etc. Now, again, I'm excited for it though, because I think the new draft mode, or the new Lunatic Draft, is very interesting looking. I think it's very cool for creative purposes. But the other thing that they've finally said that they're announcing or addressing as being changed is the hero information when you're in the pick ban phase of RTA. Now, if you're someone that has played RTA for years now at this point, something that, or somewhat of a ritual or a rite of passage, is figuring out how to maneuver through your character list. Now, in recent times, they've given us things like favorites. They've given us the ability to sort by like combat power, or by various stats, which were also not present, by the way, in earlier years or earlier seasons of RTA. But the one thing that's always remained is the inability to actually see if your character is fully geared, to see exactly what artifact is on your character, and also to see what set, or which character you're actually looking at. Now, because of Harsetti's more recent introduction into the game, I would say this is actually more necessary than ever, because there are a lot of people that have, say, two different Death Dealer Rays, or they have two different Harsettis, or they have two different Zeos, two different of a certain character that have kind of been forced onto the game just because, well, Harsetti kind of offers a different kind of strategic element, where it does actually benefit you to have a slower variation of a character and a faster variation of a character if you're not fighting against her. Now, with this, I think that them showing the characters' builds, their stats and things like this is very impactful, or is very good, and a major shout out, honestly, to Smilegate for finally introducing this, because at the end of the day, if you didn't have something like this introduced into the game, what you would otherwise have to look for is, how fast was my second Zeo, or like, was my original Mercedes build, like, did it actually only have 85 crit rate, or was it 95? And things like this were kind of annoying because it felt like you just had to make mental notes yourself, and it wasn't very friendly to players that had done it for the first time. If you're someone that plays the game casually, I'm positive that something like this has happened, where you go into draft and you maybe have changed up your builds for arena or for guild war, then you go into an RTA match and you're like, oh, did I re-equip? Is this character geared? Does that combat power look right? Does the attack look right? Is she supposed to be this slow? And now you can finally alleviate this issue with the new changes that they're adding to the pick ban. Now, overall, I think that there are some really good changes with this announcement. I think, again, the Warlord change is cool. I think it's fine to have another rank. I don't think it really changes too much. For the people that actually care for the rank, I think most people are still going to either see Champ or, you know, Warlord. And unless if there's some real incentive to get Warlord, I don't think it makes that big a difference. But in terms of the band pick UI, huge, amazing, love it. Amazing that they actually added this. The Lunatic draft, I'm very interested to see the different kind of compositions. I think everyone's kind of sick and tired of seeing stuff like Death Dealer Ray or Horsetti or ML Politis, you know, the Abyssal Eufiends, the Ilanovs, the Senyas. It's just the same kind of draft every day and flan in every single match. So I think that having this, especially for a competitive season like the E7 World Championship, could be cool. That being said, it's also been a very long time since we've even seen a stream with a competitive drive behind it from Smilegate side. So we'll see exactly when we'll be able to use this, or what the reason behind, or not the reason, but we'll see when we will see when we'll actually be able to see this mode in effect in an official competitive format. Sorry for that. And in any case, I think this was pretty cool, guys. Overall, excited for this. Hope you guys enjoyed the changes, or hope you guys are enjoying the changes. I'm really actually a big fan of this. I'm also, completely side note, I'm a huge fan of the new Brawl mode that they introduced into the game. I don't know why, but having upgrades to the boards actually make the game makes it quite interesting. Though I am also on the same board with you guys, or as I've seen a couple people comment about, like, the whole Brawl costing energy thing is kind of weird, especially since it costs so much. But in any case, guys, I'm excited for this, excited for all the new changes that are coming to E7. And yeah, don't know what else to say. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to check out the rest of my content. Leave a like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Hopefully the music this time around is quieter. I didn't try to make it that loud the last time around, so I apologize. But thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.